Believe it or not, 5 years passed since the launch of the Omega Seamaster 300M. I can tell you that because my warranty is about to expire at the end of this year. With this occasion, I want to remind you how great is your Seamaster or how close should be on your shortlist. I remember when I bought it, I was super impressed by the reflective case and the precise surfaces offered by the dial, with the pure white and stainless steel and the interlaced brushing which is following the twisted volumes. A total experience offers complexity, rhythm and volume all into a single story. I was in a transitioning period through hobbies, from military reenactment to wristwatches, and I remember I sold my night vision goggles to buy the 300M. This was my first luxury watch, a diver that kinda ruined the experience of what a luxury watch should mean. Because the Seamaster is a well-built and finished watch, and from the initial price asked around 3,000 euros after discount, this was the best iconic watch you can buy in that price range and way above the price point, all the way to the sub. In fact, the Seamaster was the better watch for almost 2 years until the Crown brand cam up with the 41mm version. And for this reason, when I started to experience higher-end watches reaching Rolexes, I wasn't at all impressed. Just because the Seamaster was already an amazing watch, offering complexity, heritage and solid specs movement-wise. So the Seamaster was the quality benchmark for me against Tudors, Breitlings, even the Submariner. The Seamaster concept was born in the fires of World War II, a waterproof field watch which transformed into a dedicated diver watch. Unlike other divers, the Seamaster carries a special message, because this is one of the few brands that created a connection with the nature through its name. The waves pattern was brought into our attention once with the GoldenEye Quartz 300M. In time, the brand wasn't sure that it was a smart move, so they made it disappear. Some appreciated the idea, but somehow the Seamaster is not a Seamaster without the waves. And once with the 2018 coaxial model, the brand made sure that the waves should remain as a permanent motif for the watch, because the Seamaster is inspired by nature. In relationship with the dial, it is interesting how the different shades of light can amplify or mute the dial, making the waves to shine or to disappear in some angles. Everything described being mirrored in a perfect symmetry, and contrast-wise you can barely spot that you actually have a date function at 6 o'clock. The Seamaster's twist is adopted once with the appearance of the watch on Bond's wrist. The case was redesigned for the 300M model with the helium escape valve signature, but inspired from the iconic Seamaster 300 model, the first choice of Comex before the Rolex love story that everyone knows. So the Seamaster 300 case design was made by Huguenon Frère Compagnie starting with 1963, the same author that made the case for the Speedmaster, the Certina DS, the DS2 and the Doxa Sub 200 Shark Hunter. These case concepts were waterproof up to 300 meters even without the need of a screw-down crown. So as identity, the majority of the brands received different case designs, but with the same motif of a twist. Today the case was brought to perfection level by Omega with the help of technology. We have clear edges with clear polished surfaces and an interesting interlaced brushing which interacts with light. So the latest model, the modern 300M, is a robust watch, as present shows an asymmetrical complexity through its case design, which by the way for the helium escape valve non-believers, the case without it would have been unbalanced. So a rhythm of brushed accents starting from the side with polished bevels, a brushed outer bezel followed by a highly polished insert and a polished dial. So we can recall the Seamaster as an extremely reflective watch which sometimes doesn't work in our favor, because it might create a mirror effect which would include in some angles the polished hands, making it difficult to read. Dots, facets, lines, engravings, letters, priorities and accents. If we analyze each element of the watch separately, we can conclude that everything is increased in complexity. Of course, there is a joy to own a sophisticated watch, but there is a downside to that. The Seamaster offers almost no breathing space for other elements to remark themselves. And as a result, the hands, besides being faceted, they are skeletonized and tailored into a sword shape. Very good, but normally underneath such hands, a calm, simplified dial should have been applied to serve as a base for the hands to shine. In 2020, a definitive shift happened for me as an artist and a UX designer. I thought with my creative skills but without any vlogging or video experience, I can challenge the idea of making a YouTube dedicated channel for wristwatches. The journey was tough, as I described it in the Santos de Cartier video. And the unhappy part of this beautiful story was that I had to insure wristwatches for the channel. The Seamaster was the most expensive watch that I owned, so I had to sell it. In that moment I've seen it as a sacrifice. The Seamaster was by far my most expensive piece from the collection, and I knew it was pretty difficult to save a big amount of money and rebuy it. Do not sell your wristwatches if you're not convinced. Luckily, because I wanted to exceed my condition, the watch collecting motivated me to optimize my life and to find a better job, to work in better conditions, and in the end to be able to afford it and to get it back. While the Seamaster was gone, I had a denial phase in regard to Omegas, I have to admit. They made a lot of moves that kinda make me break away with the bronze, even though it was my favorite. Starting from the artificial price increase, where back in the days they were offering substantial discounts for their novelties, all the way to adapting the Rolex selling system of very few pieces, no discounts, not available at all, put your name on the list. So the retail prices increased constantly, the quality remained the same, and the worst, the pre-owned prices remained unchanged. Translated in serious losses for those who want to buy a Seamaster for retail, being likely to lose between 30 and 50% at resale. I rebought the watch. I realized the mistake that I did letting it go, and after a year, I took it back. So, after 5 years, how does it feel to own a Seamaster? Does it need servicing, or is the case alright? Firstly, I need to mention, I think this is a complete watch, which can compete as a single watch collection, period. Referring to the warranty and what I can fix or change. Interesting enough, although the watch was built like a tank with super materials from the durability perspective, it feels that the watch was worn with passion by its intermediary owner, and I have to complain here a bit. The ceramic bezel does scratches, the sapphire crystal does chip, and the air coating for sure does scratch with ease. You don't need me to tell you that, you've observed these facts throughout the video. Besides that, I have to point out that the 360L alloy used for the stainless steel case feels softer than the majority of the 360L cases. So the case is scratched or dinged. But one thing I do appreciate, after 5 years the watch still has the brilliance of a luxury diver. It still looks like an expensive watch and a solid competitor for the Submariner. In the 5th year of the life and the accuracy of the metal's caliber 8800, it's still solid and accurate within the factory specs, so I don't see the need to send it for servicing before it goes out of warranty. As a conclusion, when you experience hundreds of watches with brands and qualities, at some point you calm down. You understand better what you really need, and from that point, you start to collect wisely. I had a point where I said, everything that doesn't make sense goes, so the Rolexes went out, and for everything that made sense for me, I rebought and enjoyed. Surprisingly speaking, from the context of a content creator which reviews wristwatches, the Seamaster is the longest lasting watch from my collection. And it's amazing how in time, a watch can become from a product, part of your life without knowing. Because it's a witness on our wrists, ending up telling stories or marking moments in our journeys.